Over the years, I've seen many people who had the image of humanity twisted in their lives. Our family has been involved in serving communities through foster care for a while. And when children come into my home, they come out of a hard place. However, bringing them into a healthy home does not immediately cause them to experience healing. What do people need when they have been mistreated, harmed, or treated like they are worthless? And what can we learn from these experiences so we can both heal ourselves and be united as a church in bringing wholeness and healing to the broken? Since much of my life's experience have been related to healing foster kids, I can best explain my ideas through what I've learned from them. These are also the steps adults face as they pursue healing and wholeness in their own lives. There's a saying, most of you have probably heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. In order for us to be a healing community, we must come from a place of health and be prepared to walk alongside people as they wade through their own brokenness. So the first step, admitting brokenness. For us to experience healing, knowing or admitting that there is brokenness is the first step. It's where we must go. So Moses climbed the mountain. Most kids come into foster care and say it is all the system's fault that they are there. It is hard for us to admit that there may be brokenness in our own families or in ourselves. A lot of families say they don't attend churches because in churches there are so many people that put up these walls of perfection, these fake walls, so that nobody can see anything that might be wrong at all or might be hurting at all within their families. Not only does this prevent our church from being whole and healthy, this might prevent churches from allowing other people to come in and feel comfortable. However, to be a healing community, we must climb the mountain and seek help and direction for ourselves first. Moses climbed the mountain. He actively sought out God. He did this early on into their wandering. Early on as they were leaving captivity. You see, Moses realized that they could not wander and they could not heal alone. They wouldn't make it. This emphasizes that we too should seek help, yes, from others, but also from a deep-rooted spiritual foundation before we can move out in wholeness. To do this, we must first admit that we don't have everything together on our own. Have we done this? Step 2. Safety and stability. Before we can move in any direction of healing, there must be a sustained period of safety and stability. Healing doesn't happen when we're still experiencing trauma. We are in our survival brain, or some people call this your fight, flight, and freeze brain. We're just trying to survive. Without a higher brain functioning, we can't heal. For us to heal, for us to develop and become healthy individuals, we must first let our guards down. If we function in our survival brain at all times, if there is constant stress, then there is no way for us to develop non-reactionary thinking and acting. And these are required for healing and before we can help others experience healing. Notice that God rescued the Hebrews out of slavery before God gave them the commandments. Stability was needed. Step 3, attacking and testing. Am I really safe? Are these people really here for me for the long run? I must push as hard as I can. I will find all their buttons, all of their sensitive areas, and I will push them. I must find everything of value to them and break it. This will prove that they are not here for me, right? When they abandon me, at least I am the one in control for the first time in my life. This is often the subconscious process that goes in the minds of foster children when they come into homes. They're trying to push people's buttons. If we find ourselves pushing other people's buttons, or if someone we are caring for starts pushing our buttons, then this should be a red flag that they are in this stage of healing. Verbalize what's going on, but if safety can be maintained, then don't let others push you away. This is part of their process. Step 4, enjoyment. I remember when my now adopted son Robert laughed for the first time. He had laughed before, but it was this fake, untrue, not real kind of laughter. And so when he first let all of his walls down, when they came down and he just wholeheartedly opened up and had that gut laugh come out for the first time, that was truly a beautiful moment. That was so beautiful for our family. I would argue that this is a critical moment for everyone. Letting every one of our walls crumble, even for brief moments of time, brief moments of enjoyment, where we openly and freely in the presence of others can enjoy ourselves. When we do this, we know that we have an opening in our lives for healing. Step 5, receiving care. In Mark 5:25 through 34, the bleeding woman tried to steal Jesus' healing by sneaking up and touching her robe, or his robe. This was her last hope for life, an act of survival. But the previously bleeding woman fully expected to be ridiculed and punished by Jesus, maybe even killed. Instead, he called her daughter and he showed her care. She was transformed by his care. Researchers in child development have repeatedly found that children from healthier, consistent caregiver relationships are able to be consoled after they've experienced stress. whereas children who do not have consistent, healthy caregiver relationships have a much harder time recovering from stressful situations. Having someone consistently care for you is important for us as adults as well. It is in our DNA that we need care as human beings. Expressing continual care for people who need healing is critical as well. This may be harder for us to admit, but we need to be supported by a continual foundation of relationships of reciprocal care and respect. Without these, our healing is twisted. Now, the bleeding woman probably still had a long road to healing after all of the public shaming, but the care she received opened the door for her to pursue emotional healing as well as the physical healing that she had received. Step 6, expressing care and giving back. When care and love has been received for a significant period of time, then I have seen my foster children start to express these back without expecting anything in return. When my adopted son Robert was much younger and first worked with us to pack up Thanksgiving boxes to send to struggling families, we had this conversation. I sat him down and talked about what it must feel like to not be able to provide enough food for your family, what it must feel like to wonder where your next meal is coming from. And in that moment, something clicked in him. And he put those boxes together with a dedication I have never seen from him before. And then asked the next day, when are we doing that again? It's like, well, Thanksgiving happened. But he dove in. After that experience, something shifted in him. This was a huge step for his healing. The act of caring for others is critical for healing. And it's interesting then how care is important on both sides of the healing equation. All of us should in some way be engaged in caring for others as well as in receiving care. We can do letter writing for shut-ins, check in on neighbors, continual relational care through volunteering in children's or youth ministry, praying for people face to face. We all should give and receive care. Step 7, telling your story. One of the most critical steps for foster kids, after an often long period of time, is when children begin to express their story. This usually happens when we're driving in a car and no one is face to face. All of a sudden, someone pipes up in the back and you hear about these traumatic, terrible events that have hit them in their lives. And often there's a pause while they wait to see if you're going to judge them in that process. This is actually one of the goals for most therapists working with children from hard places. It is to get them to open up and tell their stories. For adults, sharing our stories of pain and brokenness also desensitizes the intense emotions around our hurts, allowing us to experience less pain every time we are reminded of them. Sharing can also decrease the shame that we may feel from the hard places in our lives. Have we opened up to a trusted friend lately? Have we offered listening ears from a place of unconditional care and acceptance? Step 8, reversion. Frequently, children relive trauma. They're triggered by smells, touch, taste, sound. They go back to an unhealthy place and need to find healing again. Fortunately, this re-traumatization period does not last long. They move more quickly back to a place of health. In the story of God's people being rescued from Egypt and well beyond into their time in the promised land, we have this thing called the Judges cycle. The Judges cycle is where folks are worshiping God and enjoying God, then they turn away from God, but then they come back and live as God's people again, at least for a while, before turning away from God yet again. When we or those around us work out healing in our lives, don't be too discouraged by steps backwards. Yes, it's demoralizing. However, it is not the end of our story. Our God worked to redeem people from the moment Adam and Eve left the garden and is still working to redeem us today. Step 9, hope and planning. When stability and healing have happened over a long period of time, children begin painting a brighter picture. For example, one of my children went from, everyone I care about in my life is going to die or hurt me, to, there are so many people in my life who care about me that I know I will always be loved. Where are all of us in these steps? Sometimes it's easier to take advice and wisdom when we hear it about someone else. Yes, how are we being healers in the world by promoting these 9 steps for others? Yes, how are we providing openness, stability, care, and patience and hope to those who are broken? But also, where are we in this healing process? Most of us have experienced periods of brokenness even before this pandemic. Have we healed? Did we go through the steps? Or perhaps we are stuck with our walls up and won't let others in. Perhaps we still test those in our lives who care about us. Or maybe we haven't practiced telling and retelling our stories of pain, and because of this, the scars haven't fully healed. They have festered and turned into scapegoating, pessimism, negativity, or a quick temper. Maybe we haven't reached out to care for others as a response to the care and love that we've received. 1 Corinthians 15:45 tells us, the first man, Adam, became a living person. But the last Adam, that is Christ, is a life-giving spirit. we are called to strive to emulate Christ. And while we cannot give life on our own, we can, through the power of Christ, share hope and healing so that others may experience the fullness of life on earth as it is in heaven. Let it be so. Amen.